and I stopped in the Smoothie King for a smoothie, and the owner was literally was in the Smoothie King, removing things from the store into his van. And I asked him, is he open or closed? And he's like, oh, I'm closing at the end of the week. I'm retiring. I was like, oh, what's coming here? And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, yeah, I tried to sell the business, but I wanted too much for it. And I'm just retiring. And I said, was it a successful location? He's like, I was here 20 years. I said, give me the landlord's name and number, please. He did. That was on July 22nd of 2016. I signed a lease August 2nd, 2016, and I didn't have a name and I didn't have a menu and I didn't really know exactly what I was going to sell. I just knew I wanted to sell superfood.
All right, Jeff, welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely, brother. It's an absolute pleasure, man. I know you're a busy guy, hustling, man, getting to it, making sure that the locations are staying strong through COVID, I'm sure, right?
Yes. Crazy COVID that we live in now.
I know, man. I know. I went out earlier today for a little bit, man. It's just like the whole process, man. It's good to see things getting back, getting started up again. I'm here in Jersey, so we're just now like getting back into the gist of things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that we don't see a second wave, which sounds like is potential, but you guys are finally getting out.
I know. I hope it stays that way, man. I'm so over this whole deal, honestly. But anyways, Jeff, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, man. Really excited to share your story. If you wouldn't mind, for the listeners out there that aren't familiar with you and your work and what you're currently up to, man, would you mind to give us like a brief overview?
Sure, yeah. So currently I'm the founder and CEO of Everbowl Craft Superfood. It's a craft superfood chain, started in San Diego in 2016. We have 28 locations in 2 states and 7 cities, a couple sports stadiums, college campuses, and we basically are disrupting the quick serve healthy eating market by providing world-class superfood at affordable, filling, delicious prices, and making sure it's accessible to everybody and helping everyone unevolve and live their best self, to live actively and eat stuff that's been around forever. And we just launched franchise, so we're now franchising Everbowls nationwide. And we launched a direct-to-consumer line during COVID, and we were just on QVC 2 weeks ago, and fortunately sold out in 7 minutes. So we're really excited about that initiative. And then we also have a coffee line called Super Fuel Coffee, which you can buy on Amazon or through our website. And it's the world's first acai and superfood infused coffee. And our unique selling proposition is you drink coffee every day, but you don't always eat superfood. So why not drink superfoods with your coffee? And that's pretty much what we're doing right now.
Yeah, I'm a customer already, man. I haven't even tried it yet, but that's right up my alley, bro. I love it, man.
I'll have to send you a box.
Yeah, dude. That would be. I'll promote you over here on the East Coast, bro. That's
awesome. Ground or Keurig?
Ground.
Ground it is.
My man.
Send me your address. I'll fire it over.
I will, bro. Thank you, man. So I've had acai before, but this is going to sound ridiculous. I don't even know what acai is, really. No. So for the listeners out there that don't know what it is either, man, can you break it down for us real simply?
Sure. It's a Brazilian superfruit. So think about it the way a blueberry looks. But rather than growing on a bush, it grows on palm trees in and around the Amazon River in Brazil. Parts of Colombia, but it's primarily found only in Brazil. And it scores off the charts in a bunch of its nutritional powerhouse. So it's very high in the ORAC scale, which is high in antioxidants. It's got almost no sugar. It's in the berry family. And it is so good for longevity, for staying young. I mean, I'm 75 years old and you can see I don't have any wrinkles. No, but I mean, it's such a, when you think about nutrition and people say superfoods and what those are and why should I eat them, it's because you don't want to have to eat a million of something all the time to get the nutritional benefits, right? But by eating an acai bowl or eating acai berries, which you can't get locally because they just don't survive transportation, so you have to eat them in either a bowl or a smoothie manner here in the United States. What you're getting is you're getting a ton of the nutrition you need and want on a daily basis without having to consume very much. It's also going to make you be your best self. It's going to make sure that you are thriving and not just surviving. And it tastes really good. And it's a fun way to reinvent both meals, snacks. You can trick it into desserts. We add peanut butter and almond butter and some fun flavors that really make it feel like instead of eating an ice cream, you're eating this. And now you're able to replace what was supposed to be a treat with a treat that's not only tastes good, but good for you. And so acai is one of the world's #1 super fruits. Highly recommend whether you come to Everbowl or you go to one of our competitors, that you find ways to consume it. It really is good for you. And for those of you who've never had it, it's also very fun to say. You can say stuff like acai some or acai, what you did right there, and really cool puns and fun things to do with it. So it's just a fun fruit, and it's a great addition to your diet.
I love it, bro. How many times have you heard Acai?
A lot.
A lot, right?
Yes. But that's okay. There's no wrong way to say it. Just say it.
I love it, bro.
And
put
you know, find a way. That's why we're putting it in coffee, and we're putting it in all these other ways, because you may not want to eat it, or you may not like it, which is doubtful. Once you try it, you're going to like it, but you may not know that you like it, or you may not find it. So I want to make the ability for you to eat it as easy as possible, whether you drink it, eat it, or get a bowl, make coffee, do whatever you're going to do. But that's my goal, and that's kind of the project that I'm really working towards solving.
Hey, acai has gotten really powerful and popular over the last couple of years. Like, it's kind of hard to not hear about it. Is there any like reason for that, like a driving factor, like on its popularity?
Well, I think, you know, when I started, no one knew what it was, and I was importing it, and it was I happen to be, one of my passions is health and wellness, and I'm into superfoods, so I've always been in that kind of arena, that niche. So I was aware of it long before the masses. And I think what happened is, once consumers in America started eating it, and we started making fun ways for you to do it, and you realize it tastes good and it's that good for me, all of a sudden it was like, well, if it's that good for me and it tastes like this, why don't I eat more of it? So they started popping up everywhere. And that's where that surge really came. I mean, it actually started in America. I don't know if you remember that company, Mona V. They used to be, it's like an MLM from the 90s and early 2000s. And it was like everyone drove a Tahoe, and on the back of it, it said Mona V.
Right.
That company was one of the first companies to actually use acai in that drink. And that was that's really what made it nutritionally powerful. And I had no affiliation with that company whatsoever. But that's where I first came across acai back in the early 2000s or 90s, whenever that was. And once you realize how good it is for you, you can't help but not want to consume more of it. And then when you can't find it, I really reached out and figured out how to get it. And I was getting it from myself and my family. And then everyone who I'd make it for at my house was like, this is amazing. And then it was like, light bulb, business opportunity. Let's scale this thing.
Boom. And you said you were actually importing it. So what did that look like?
So I went down to Brazil and met with the factories, and through a supplier that I was using originally, he brought me down there, and really wanted to source directly, really wanted to cut out more of the middlemen, and make sure that we were getting it in a sustainable way. We were paying attention to not only the quality of the fruit, but the quality of the practices and labor conditions and everything else down there. So that was really an exciting opportunity for us to really, get our hands around the entire supply chain and get involved from, I even climbed some trees down in Brazil. I got some video on my social media. You can check it out. But I climb a 30-foot palm tree and pick it with my own hands. And, I've done the full from plant all the way through to bowl. And my appreciation for the berry and the whole ecosystem is really amplified because of it. So it's been great. And I get to offer it now at a discount to my consumers because I go direct.
That's amazing, bro. You're a real practitioner, Jeff. I love it, bro. So 28 locations, man. That's major, bro. By the way, major congratulations to you, bro. That's huge. Just started a franchise model, so I'm pretty sure these things are going to be popping up all over the place. How long have you been the owner of Everbowl? Like, when did you found it?
October 2016.
Wow, so only not even 5 years in, and you're already at 28.
Not even 4 years, yeah, 3.5 years.
3.5 years, 28 shops, man. That's huge, man.
Yeah.
Let's talk about before that, right? Because the show's called Started Somewhere. I know that this didn't happen overnight for you. So, how did it all start for you, man?
Yeah, I was one of those kids that I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do with myself, and the idea of doing one thing the rest of my life scared the shit out of me. So, I had lots of little jobs in high school, from delivering pizzas to working as a telemarketer to, working at a nursery, moving rose bushes till I got pricked too many times. I worked at Blockbuster Video. I worked at Pickup Sticks. I mean, I've ran and worked mailboxes, etc. I've really worked a ton of jobs, and I always remember people telling me, Jeff, you got to find something that you want to do. And my mom was a teacher, my dad was a doctor, and so they were really stressing, like, hey, you got to pick a career. And I went to college at University of Arizona. I graduated in 3 years, and I was 21 years old. and I still didn't know what I was going to do. So I applied to law school, and I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. And I said, if I didn't get into law school, I was going to go be a Marine. And this was 2003, 2004. And if I got into law school, I was going to go to law school and be a sports agent, because I love sports. I always played sports, but I didn't have a future as a player. So I had to find some way to stay connected to it, as I thought, hey, if I got to do something forever, might as well be connected to sports. And got into law school and went to law school, graduated at 24 years old, and had a job lined up with Lee Steinberg Sports Agency, and was going to go be a sports agent with the CEO is a very dear friend and mentor of mine, David Meltzer. And my third year of law school, I ended up having a little daughter and a fiance. And so I decided I didn't want to travel the world representing athletes. I wanted to be around to be a dad. So when I graduated law school, now I have all this law school debt, and I have a degree in law, and I don't want to be a lawyer, and I'm not going to be a sports agent. So I still don't know what I'm going to do with myself. And so I got a job selling payroll services for a company called ADP, and was like, all right, I'm just going to make some money and figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up and take care of my daughter and fiance. And so luckily I was really successful selling payroll services. I was the number one sales rep in the country my first 6 months there. Bought a house, was about to be married, built a big ego, got all this recognition and money, and I earned an annual bonus of $17,000. And so I went to my boss in January of 2007 and said, hey, I earned this bonus. I'd like to get my bonus paid. And they explained to me I had to wait to the end of the fiscal year, which wasn't until the end of June. And that was about 6 months. And I said, well, listen, I'm not waiting 6 months. I have 6 figures in law school loans. I just bought a house, so I really need the money. I'm getting married. I have a daughter. I gave them my whole sob story. And they basically told me, Jeff, this is a big company. We have annual goals. You got to wait to the end of the fiscal year. That ends in June. You'll get the check in July. Don't worry, you're going to get it, but you got to wait. Well, my ego wouldn't let me wait. So I, in the heat of the moment, threatened to quit if they didn't give it to me. They called my bluff, and they told me, if you want to quit, there's the door, but you're not getting it earlier. So I did. I went home that night. I told my fiance, I want to sell the house we just moved into and bought. I want to take our daughter and move in with my mom and dad, and start my own payroll company and go after ADP and steal back all my clients and build a business on my own, because, F them. And she was supportive. And so the very next day I quit, moved my family out of my house, sold the house, moved in with my mom and dad, and started a payroll company with a buddy of mine out of my mom's kitchen called Acai. And I didn't know what I was doing or how to run a business, but I knew I could sell payroll. And so me and him, we grew the company. We raised some private equity capital. We sold it in 2011. And that was my first foray into entrepreneurship. And I really learned about myself that what everyone told me was my weakness of I can't stay committed to one thing forever is actually my strength. I'm a serial entrepreneur. So I come into new markets with zero experience and with fresh eyes and disruption, and I build companies and I exit them in 3 to 5 years. And so simultaneously, I started a recruiting agency alongside iChecks, where I helped my clients, recruit talent, because I started my first company right when the first Great Recession happened in 2008. And so finding talent was very hard for my clients. And so I helped them. And I built a recruiting company that I sold in 2012. And then when I was done with that, my youngest daughter was born in November of 2011, and I wanted to be home more. So I figured I'd work from a computer. And, it's funny. My wife was like, you don't even know how to use a computer. And I'm like, that's true, but I can learn. So I started a digital marketing agency, and I ended up partnering with a very good friend of mine and a rock star. His name's Neil Patel. And we grew that and worked with some major brands and major companies like, Amazon, eBay, Overstock, Viacom, like some pretty big brands and pretty cool things. And we helped people make money online. And along that journey, I started a few other internet companies and or a couple consulting businesses. And then I sold the digital marketing agency in 2015 at the beginning of 2016, and was at home driving my wife and kids crazy for a while. And they said, go do something. You're driving us nuts. And so I said, okay, it's Everbowl time. So I started Everbowl. And same thing. I had zero restaurant experience. I didn't know what or first thing to do about a restaurant, but you don't need experience. And I, again, like I learned about myself, my entrepreneurial ADD is my strength, and it allows me to come in, and I like to start companies. And so I do. And, with Everbowl, as I mentioned, we have the import side of the business, we have the franchise side of the business. And we also, in order for me to build them faster and cheaper, I started my own construction company called We build stuff, and we build our own stores. So my construction company has built all 28 Everbowls, 27, excuse me. The first one wasn't built with my company, but the guy who built it is the head of my company. So the same person built them all, Jake Brossell, and here we are.
So, Jeff, is there anything that you don't do?
There's lots I don't do. My wife will give you a list of all the things I don't do.
My man, holy smokes, that's a mouthful, bro. That's a lot to digest, man. So I want to take it back and highlight on a few of the things that you just mentioned. So you went to law school. You didn't know what you were going to do, right? So it was either become a Marine or go to law school, right?
Yeah, I had an enlistment date, July 2nd of that summer. I went to law school of 2004. I was going to be deployed and go through, basic training and do all that. And I was going to be a special police inside the United States Marine Corps. Took the ASVAB and did the whole enlistment thing. But I told them when I enlisted that if I get into law school, I'm going to decline the enlistment, and they agreed. And so when I got into law school and decided to do that instead, I didn't end up serving.
So you chose the law path, and you went through law school. You graduated, right?
Correct.
And you never actually practiced any law.
The only thing I ever did was my third year of law school. I was a certified intern with the public defender's office, so I got to try some misdemeanor cases, drunk in public, fish and game stuff when people were fishing and were catching too small of lobsters, or bicycling under the influence, like stuff like that. That's the only amount of legal work I ever did.
Do you feel like law school was a waste of time, looking back?
Absolutely not. No. I can't stress education enough, especially if you don't know what you want to do. It taught me so much. It taught me an approach of analytical thinking. I think the number one mistake people make, and it was a quote I actually posted on my social media the other day from Mark Twain, which is, it's not what we don't know that hurts us the most. It's what we think we know that just ain't true that hurts us the most. It's because we don't look at things from all angles. And law school teaches you to look at any problem or any situation from both sides, because you don't get to choose, right? So in law school, you'll have Johnny punched Jimmy in the face, and then it'll say, okay, argue for Johnny or argue for Jimmy. And you have to take whatever side they give you and make your best argument. And when you do that and you practice that skill, you learn how to analyze situations from all sides. And when you can do that effectively well, it helps you in sales. It helps you in business. It helps you when you're trying to recruit talent. It helps you when you're trying to develop talent. It helps you when you analyze businesses, because instead of seeing it just the way you naturally would and then honing in on that and that being your position, I'm this and therefore that's what you are. It actually allows you to look at both sides and appreciate the other side. And when you can do that with clear eyes and understand their position, even if you disagree with it and, emotionally, you can then create a situation that can be a win-win. You understand where they're coming from, so you can either find a middle ground or what is going to be a stopping point, and you won't waste time. So that analytical approach and that ability to do that and hone that skill has aided me tremendously across. And then, I've raised a ton of money. I've raised over $15 million for all my companies. And the fact that I have a law degree, adds pedigree to my resume, even though I didn't practice. But investors and the street and the people who analyze whether or not they want to do business with me understand that when I start something, I finish it. And I have the ability and the capability to succeed through law school. So it elevated me from that side. And then I have a fallback plan. I mean, I could be a lawyer tomorrow if I choose to. I don't have to go back to law school. So
you can just flip the switch, right?
Exactly. I get to take calculated risks, and my fallback plan is a career. And so I can't stress that enough. If you know what you want to do, go do it. But if you don't, too many people slip on the idea that education is overrated or it's expensive. Sure it is, and it should be. I mean, it's a barrier, but do it. I mean, this is you. You're investing in yourself. You can take a lot of things from me, and I can go. You could drop me off in any city in America knowing nobody, but I still have that law degree. I still have my college degree. I still have that piece of paper that says this is what I've done, and it gives me a certain level of credibility. Of course, once I walk through the door, it's how I articulate myself and who I am and what I've accomplished as an adult. But I think that fallback plan just raises my floor, and so I stress that enough. And yeah, it was expensive. It cost me six figures, and luckily I paid it off after a few companies ago. But it was an investment that I would make again, knowing what I've done, even though I never practiced law and I never was a sports agent, which was the only reason I actually went. So hindsight, yes, I would do it again, and it was not a waste.
It's an instant credibility booster, right?
That's right.
Plus, lawyers make some bank, man. you and I both know in the business world, man, when we got to hire lawyers for contracts and litigation.
Well,
And
I don't
stuff
have
like
to do that, luckily, too, which is great. I mean, I use that education, right? I do my own leases at Everbowl. I look at my own contracts. And, yeah, I'm not a contract lawyer. I'm not a real estate lawyer. But I know enough to be dangerous. I know enough to understand what I read through law school. And I understand how to analyze a contract. And I understand some of it. So I also get to save a little money on that. But, yes, lawyers make a lot of money. So
that's a good
it's not
angle.
a bad gig.
That's a good angle, bro. So you started multiple companies, and you built up these companies. You got into the digital marketing space. You created that payroll service. And it sounds like each company that you got into, each niche, you didn't really know what you were doing. You kind of just figured it out as you went. Are you
Correct,
you the figure it out guy?
I am. My one of my quotes is that will be on the back of my book one day is experience is the most overrated prerequisite to start a company. And I work with and speak to so many entrepreneurs. Some I mentor, some I coach, and some I just speak to when I speak. And they always say, "Oh, I'm waiting to gain experience before I go start my own company." And I always ask them why. Why do you need experience? Like when I started Everbowl, I'll never forget my dad. He's a doctor. He's conservatively minded. And he's like, "Jeff, you don't know anything about restaurants. 9 out of 10 restaurants fail." And my mom was like, "You don't even know how to cook." And they're both right. But let's break that down. 9 out of 10 restaurants fail. All right, that's true. How many of them start with zero experience, or how many of them start with restaurant experience? Well, 99% of them have restaurant experience, and then 90% of them fail because the way everyone's doing it is broken. I come in with fresh eyes and no idea on how to do it. So I just use 2016 thinking, or if it was today, 2020 thinking, 2020 technology, and my best approach to business, and I go give it a try. And I can always find someone to come help me if I need something who has restaurant experience. So why do I need experience? What am I gaining by doing that? Nothing. I'm wasting time, and I'm learning how to do it the same way everyone else is doing it, which means I'm going to get the same results everyone else is getting. And in the restaurant space, that means a 90% failure rate. I don't want that. I don't want that experience. You can keep your 90% failure rate. I'm going to go and give it my own and see what happens. And I find that works for all industries because, too often you do things just because that's how you were trained. That doesn't mean it's the best way to do it today. And so I like fresh eyes. I like to disrupt. I'm more of a contrarian in my approach. So if everyone's doing, I say this, if everyone's going left, go right. And when nothing's going right, go left. And that's kind of the way to think about it.
That's a bomb right there, brother. I love it, man. Bringing the heat. So that's a great subject that I want to talk about because the listeners right now, so many of them are overanalyzing, right? They're over, and I'm in business. I'm in the real estate space, but I've thought about other businesses like storefront, location, stuff like that. I used to work in the service industry, bartending and whatnot. And I've always thought about, hey, it'd be cool to open up like a snack shop or a sandwich shop. Or I've looked at like Jersey Mike's franchises, and I've looked at like pretty much everything. But the one thing that's always held me back is like that first step of like getting in. Like, I've never done this before. What if this happens? What if that happens? So would you mind to like walk us through that,
Sure.
that whole process? So first off, everybody's question is, do you need capital to get started?
Depends on the business, but my first company, I had none. And I moved my fiance and daughter and sold my house and moved in with my mom and dad because I didn't have any money. And so I didn't want to have any expenses. So I sacrificed. So sometimes it takes sacrifice. Sometimes it takes capital, and I had a kid and I had a fiance and I had a house. And so luckily I had a support circle of parents who were willing to let me, my fiance and daughter move in. Not everyone has that. So that was an advantage I had, but I can tell you the sacrifice was still there. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I can't. I have a mortgage." Well, get out of the mortgage. I mean, how bad do you want whatever it is you're talking about? If you want the freedom of running your own company, then that's worth more than a mortgage. And guess what? You're in real estate. You can always buy another house, but you don't always get another opportunity to go do what you want to do. And this is your life, so go do it.
True.
But then if you do have capital, which I've had for my last one, then it's just a matter of, are you willing to bet your capital on yourself? Because I don't know what tomorrow brings. I didn't know what COVID, opportunity comes from bad times. It doesn't really come from good times when everything is going right. If you look at real estate 3 years ago, any house you bought worked. Every single one appreciated, right? 3 years ago, it was like a housing market boom. And no matter what house you bought, it went up. So There's no real opportunity. The opportunity there is just buy a house. But where your skill differentiates you and you can actually have real opportunity to separate yourself is when the housing market's going down and you understand the market and how to beat it, right? That's where opportunity comes. That's where those people make all that money. People made a fortune after the real estate crash of '08 because they had the ability, the means, and the knowledge to execute when the bottom happened. Same thing happened with the stock market, after the dot-com boom. And it's the same thing that's happening, with COVID. I mean, I had to close 28 restaurants on March 18th. And I had about a 2-minute pity party. And then I looked myself in the mirror and said, okay, nothing comes from pity. What are we going to do? So that's where we launched Later Bowls, which is our direct-to-consumer bowl approach, where we sell acai bowls that you could put in your freezer nationwide. And I spun up a website using Shopify. It took me and my team less than 4 hours to build the website. I went on social media, and so did my team, and we started saying, hey, we now sell Later Bowls. And we started to get incremental sales. And then I used relationship capital. And I said, okay, who do I know that can get me on QVC or the Home Shopping Network? And I started asking everyone, who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? And I finally found a way to get on the QVC. And 2 weeks ago, we launched it on QVC and we sold out in 7 minutes. And now I have a whole new revenue line. Now that my restaurants are back open, Everbowl sells Later Bowls direct to consumer. So you in New Jersey, although you can't go into an Everbowl, can go to everbowl.com and click Later Bowls or shop.everbowl.com and buy a box of Later Bowls, and they'll be delivered to your house in 2 days. Put them in your freezer and you're going to make an Everbowl at home. Or if you're watching QVC, you can buy it direct from them. And those kinds of opportunities only come because COVID happened. So while everyone else is having a pity party, yes, I'm human. I have one too, but I limit myself to 5 minutes. That's the most I'm ever going to feel sorry for myself. And then it's, all right, what next? And another way to think about it is if you were in a tuxedo at a lake at a wedding and someone picked you up and threw you in the middle of the water, you're not going to sit there and go, oh my God, my suit or my dress got wet. Poor me. You're going to swim out of the lake. Right. And then you're going to be like, what just happened? Well, that's what people need to do when you're stuck. Like when situations arise, get out of the lake, then worry about why it happened. And I think too often people sit there and spend too much time treading water going, what's going on? Poor me. I'm in the lake. And that's just waste. That's a wasted opportunity. So you got to just get going and get moving forward, and incrementally you'll get there, and it will not be a straight line up. And we all have setbacks, but it's the people who understand that it's a matter of putting one foot in front of the other and keep going are the ones who will eventually get to that destination thereafter. And
adjusting too, right?
Oh, 100%.
You have to make
it's all about adjustments.
That's awesome, 100%. Bro. Later Bowl, man. Like, stores are closed. Let's take it online. Direct to consumer, bro. Was that your idea?
It's a team idea. I can't take complete credit for that. It was someone on my team who suggested that we had the product, and we had thought about doing this about 1.5 years earlier, which was my idea, but then we didn't do it because we were too busy. And then he said, why don't we do that now? And I was like, that's brilliant.
That's fire, bro. So Jeff, let's talk.
Not my idea.
It's awesome, man. That's like, why not, right? Maybe next you'll be in grocery stores all over the world, right?
Maybe.
Never know. Jeff, I want to talk about that first location, right? So you ran all these businesses, and you're kind of hopping around different industries, different niches. You're at the house, driving the wife and kid crazy. They're like, hey, you got to go do something. And then you chose the idea of opening a food service business specializing in acai bowls, right? What did that look like? Did you go out the next day and start looking at strip centers to find a store front?
No.
Like, what did it look like?
No. So they said it's time for you to go sink your teeth into a new project. And so I was like, okay. And I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. I made it sound, I summed it up really succinctly when I said, and then I did Everbowl. But I was actually visiting a client of mine in Poway, California, and I stopped in the Smoothie King for a smoothie. And the owner was literally was in the Smoothie King, removing things from the store into his van. And I asked him, is he open or closed? And he's like, oh, I'm closing at the end of the week. I'm retiring. I was like, oh, what's coming here? And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, yeah, I tried to sell the business, but I wanted too much for it. And I'm just retiring. And I said, was it a successful location? He's like, I was here 20 years. I said, give me the landlord's name and number, please. He did. That was on July 22nd of 2016. I signed a lease August 2nd, 2016, and I didn't have a name. And I didn't have a menu, and I didn't really know exactly what I was going to sell. I just knew I wanted to sell superfood, and I'd figure that out after. because the opportunity was there was a 20-year smoothie shop in this location, successful for 20 years. He's retiring. Fine. Another man's trash is another man's treasure. So I was like, well, worst case, I'll sell smoothies. I know I have a built-in audience, but best case, I can now take some of the stuff that I was making at home and was interested in and sell it. And so I signed the lease August 2nd, and then October 15, 2016, 3 months later, we opened. And during that time, I built a menu and had some help with branding, and we came up with a name, and we came up with the concept, and we fine-tuned it and launched.
And you had all the equipment already in this shop, I'm sure, right? Like that he left behind?
No, he only left the plumbing. So like the 3-compartment sink and the water heater, like the actual plumbing side was all done, but not like the blenders and all that. No, he took all that stuff.
So you had to buy new stuff, basically.
Yeah, I had to buy new stuff, and I had to redesign the whole store because a Smoothie King is like bright yellow and bright red, and that's just not the look of Everbowl. But I didn't have to do all the plumbing and all of the electrical stuff, and I didn't have to build out a brand new location. I basically took a 2nd generation location and repurposed it for my own and modernized it to a 2016 look and made it feel like the way we wanted Everbowl to feel, and focus more on the branding side. And then the menu development, look, I was making a bunch of bowls at home, and I was importing superfoods, and I had a bunch of friends over about 3 weeks before we opened, and I made them about 40 different iterations of product and got their feedback and picked about 15 of them and put them on the menu and opened.
Man. Now, I'm curious. There's a lot of moving parts in a restaurant, right? How did you know exactly what to buy? Like, was there anything that you missed out on? Like, oh, I didn't even know I needed that? Or did you have somebody tell you, like, you need this, you need this?
Yeah, no, of course. So a friend of mine, quasi-friend of mine, a guy, well, I'll just be actually more accurate. A guy who owned a juice shop that near my house that I always went and bought juice from, just to have a cup of juice when I wanted a cup of juice. I offered him $5,000 to help consult me just on what I needed to do, like health plans and just a little stuff that I had no idea on. So I paid him $5,000, and he spent 1 week with me just saying, okay, this is what you need to do this and this and this and this and this, just so I had like the regulatory stuff done. So for $5,000, I bought what others would call experience.
Exactly.
And
I got
it in 1 week.
It's like, and that's the message, man, that I talk about here on the show is like in business, man, to get on that fast track, you just hire a coach, right? Somebody who's already done it, that puts you on that fast track and shows you the game.
And you should always have a coach. I mean, I have business coaches and I have mentors. I'm a mentee. I have mentors, and then I'm a mentor for some mentees, and I'm a business coach for people as well. And there's a difference, and I can't stress it enough. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because whether you look at LeBron James in basketball or Beyonce or Tom Hanks, or you pick your number one person, they all have coaches, right? LeBron James has a basketball coach. He's the best basketball player in the world. He's got a coach, because a coach holds you accountable. A coach is going to help give you that little extra bit, and paying for it is important because it means that you're going to appreciate the value of the services and can hold them accountable to give them to you, and vice versa. And then having mentors, people that you don't pay but are just there to help guide you and give you guidance and give you suggestions and tips. Someone that you can pick their brain a little bit, but they're not heavily invested in your success, but they are in you as a person. And I'm not where I am today, but for having coaches and mentors. And I pay it forward now as I'm a mentor and I'm a coach. And it's not my main business, but I make a little bit of money doing it, and I help people. And as long as I add more value to them than I receive, I feel good about it. And same thing for my coaches. They make some money off me, but I gain so much more value from them than what I pay them that it's an investment, just like law school.
It's truth, brother. Now, when it came to opening that location, right, you have to get like health department certifications and all that jazz. Did it ever concern you being in the food industry? Like, what if like somebody gets like sick off my product or something like that? Because that's always been the back of my head, weirdly enough. No? Okay. All right.
No.
Okay.
I mean, 2 reasons. Number one, I don't have animal products, so we don't have like chicken that's going to have E. coli. I mean, we have frozen fruit and fresh fruit, and primarily fruit. Fruit is pretty easy. I don't have to do a lot of cooking. But number two, I mean, I don't have that same fear when I go eat at a restaurant either, right? If I did, I wouldn't eat out. So
touche.
we eat all the time. I mean, look, things happen, but knock on wood, no one's going to get sick. We wash our produce. We source high quality, organic, non-GMO product. We really focus on trying to give you high quality ingredients. And I don't know of a blueberry disease like E. coli. So,
touche, bro. Touche. Now, do you remember what the initial investment capital required for that first location was?
Yeah, I mean, it cost me about $200,000 to get it open.
So $200K to get the doors open to customers,
and to cover the first month or two of labor and
some
supplies.
Operating costs. Gotcha.
Yeah, and rent. Yeah,
that's not bad, bro. It's not. No. That's on the low end of, like, you look at places like bigger franchises. I mean, you're looking at what,
sure,
$500,000 to $1 million to
get
for
in sure, the door? Absolutely. Which is, but again, it's if you're not willing to invest in yourself, why would anyone else? Right? And if you don't believe it enough, like if you don't believe in your ability to succeed or whatever your goal or your company is enough, then don't do it. Right? And it's obviously not, like, it's not, this isn't for looky-loos, right? This isn't just like, oh, let me just, like, when I do something, I do it. I mean, I was, I've made millions of dollars and over my career, and I've sold successful companies. But when I started Everbowl, for 4 months, for 13 to 15 hours a day, I was in that store 7 days a week, working a job that I could pay someone minimum wage to do, because I didn't know what I was doing. So you didn't come to Everbowl from October till February without seeing me there, open to close. I was there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I stayed till 9:30 at night, literally 7 days a week, minus Sunday because our hours were a little less. And I didn't see my wife and I didn't see my kids. And they went from seeing me too much to barely seeing me at all. They want to see me, they come to the store. But I did that because I had to learn the business. I had to understand what I was doing. I had to build processes. I never wanted someone to know my business better than me. It's my business. How do you expect to be successful? So, it's easy to say, oh, look, you just go do this and this. No, you've got to be willing to do it. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And I guarantee you will not outwork me. So there's other people like me out there. You've got to be the number one hardest worker and demonstrate it. And if you don't like hard work, go get a job. Work for someone else. You get to clock in, you get to clock out, you get to go home. Entrepreneurship is truly for the grinders.
Hey, man, if you don't build out your dreams, you'll just work for somebody who never gave up on theirs, right?
I mean, or listen, some people aren't wired to be an entrepreneur, and that's fine. Yeah. I don't wish this life for my children. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a lot of sacrifice, and it's lonely, and you don't get to be friends with all your coworkers. Even though I love them all, they don't want to hang out with their boss, right? I'm their boss, and that's not the best relationship. Even though I hope they like me, but I'm not here for them to like me. I'm here for them to be successful and thrive. And as the owner of a company, you don't have a lot of peers. All your buddies get paid vacation and time off, and when things go wrong, it's someone else's problem. No, that's all my problem. And the politics. I mean, no, I'm not trying to. Again, I'm not painting you a sob story. I'm saying, like, you've got to want this life, and I want it because this is who I am. I'm wired this way. I can't imagine doing it any other way. But I think too many people get intoxicated with the idea of entrepreneurship and not understand the sacrifice and commitment that's required. And I got to tell you, the grass always looks greener, because when I talk to buddies who are on paid vacation and they get holidays off and they get all this stuff and they're out with their family doing their thing, and I'm dealing with an emergency at 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday, I can tell you, I'm like, I'm envious, but then I realized that this is who I am and this is the life I wanted. So, if it's for you, get in and find people to help you and use me as a resource and reach out, and I'm happy to help. But if it's not, that's okay. Like, you shouldn't feel bad that you're not meant to be an entrepreneur. I mean, you can take that approach and be an employee and have a great quality of life.
That's a fact, bro. I like the Gary V method, right? It's like, if you don't complain in life and you're perfectly happy, more power to you. But if you're unhappy and you're not doing what you want to be doing, you need to make a change, right? And I agree with you, bro. Entrepreneurship, man, a lot of people don't know. It's a lonely road, brother. It's a lonely road. You spend a lot of time just by yourself in hustle mode. But again, I wouldn't trade it for the world, man.
That's right.
Because some of our buddies might get those paid vacations, but we're creating something that is ours and providing value to the market. And of course, we do get to enjoy the fruits of our labor. Like, Let's be honest. I'm sure you do enjoy yourself from time to time when you're not, on the grind.
I love the grind though. See, that's the difference.
Yeah.
I love what I do. That's the point. I don't look at it as like, if you don't love the hard work and the grind, like my wife, she gives me a little bit of shit sometimes because she's like, you love that hard work. I do. And that's just the fact, right? So I'm fortunate and I'm blessed to be able to do what I love and have found it. A lot of people I think are doing something they don't love, and so they're lost trying to figure out what they want to do. And for those people, you have to spend some time doing self-reflection and look in the mirror and say, am I wired for this? Do I want to work 80 hours a week without any recognition and potentially no money and risk it all for this life? If that's the answer, go for it and you will be successful. And if it's not, cool. Find a company that resonates with you, that has the culture and has the vision, and find something you can do. I mean, that's what I tell my daughters. I'm like, listen, I don't care what you do. Just make sure you love it. Don't waste your life doing something you don't love doing. That's a tragedy.
Boom. Jeff, let's talk about the second location. So first of all, was the first location profitable in its first year?
Yes, it was profitable in its third month.
Wow. Awesome. At what point did you realize, okay, we got to open up another one of these?
The third month when it was profitable.
No shit. That fast.
I opened the second store on our 6-month anniversary. So 3 months later. So 3 months later, 3 months in, I signed lease number 2, and 6 months in, I opened store number 2.
That's amazing, man. What do you look for in a location? Like, does it have to be a certain square footage, like traffic count, stuff like that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we have our profile of like what a good store for us is, a certain square footage, and of course we like certain demographics, busy street,
right.
Real estate 101. I want the best location possible.
Of course.
Low rent, high visibility, tons of traffic, small space, all those things that everyone else wants.
Yeah.
But it for me, it was about scale. I wanted to build Everbowl to be available to everybody, and I knew I wanted to build a nationwide chain. I didn't want to build just a 1 restaurant, 2 restaurant. That wasn't my goal. My goal was to build a fleet, and I wanted 100 stores across the country, and I wanted to do it really quickly. And so once I had profitability with store number 1, I was like, okay, I can duplicate this. Let's go. So I opened store number 2.
Did it again. When did store number 3 come?
6 months after that. And store 4 was 7 months after that. So I opened October of 16, store 1, May of 17, store 2, September of 17, store 3, October of 17, store 4. And then in 2018, I challenged myself to see if I could open 1 store a month and 2 stores in June and July. And we did. So we opened 14 stores in 2018 and then just kept going.
Now, were the businesses helping to open up the other locations, or were you bringing in investment capital from partners and selling pieces of the pie?
Well, I self-funded the first 4 and then started raising outside capital. Got a lot of traction from people who wanted to buy franchise or invest, and I wasn't going to do either. But then I realized, well, I got a recipe here. So we started raising some outside capital and brought in some investors in at the end of 2017, beginning of 18, and they helped fund store 5.
Lit the fire, right? The gasoline.
Yeah.
Now you got capital. Exactly. You can open up as many as you want. Now, all the locations, like, are they in like close proximity to each other? Or are they spread out? I know you're in Southern California, right?
We have a store in San Francisco. We have stores in Arizona. We have stores in San Diego, LA, Orange County, Riverside County.
So you're in markets where you're not every day anymore, like being even able to.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure you have some sort of like chain of management that oversees like those types of locations and stuff like that, or?
Yep, absolutely. At our peak pre-COVID, we had about 440 employees, and
damn,
everyone has a role to play.
My man, dude, you're inspiring me, bro. You have any goals to open up on the East Coast, man?
I mean, I'm selling franchises, and we offer the cheapest franchise possible because with my construction company, to open a restaurant now, construction-wise, costs between $50 and $75 grand. So we're trying to do all-in franchises for $100 or less. So that includes franchise fees, build-out, training, the whole 9 yards. You shouldn't have to spend that much money, and we're also SBA approved, so you can get SBA funding to do it, which is basically free money. It's 3.5%, 30-year loans. So it's like to borrow $100,000 is like $200 a month for the next 30 years, and you get to open an Everbowl, assuming we jive well and you have a good location and you fit the culture that we're looking for. But not you specifically, just speaking more generally. But we're looking for good franchisees. We just closed one in Utah. We're closing one in Oregon, and we're looking to work with some very ambitious people who want areas, and we want to be the next national chain, and we want to work with some people who want to take control of their financial freedom and run some Everbowls.
Hey, your next franchisee might be listening right now, bro. You never know.
I would love it.
I'm gonna hit you up offline, man, and get some more info on that, because it definitely sounds super, super interesting and super fun too, right? It's exciting. Like,
exactly.
Storefronts just always excited me. It's like it gives you something to do every day, right?
That's right.
Like, real estate's great, but it's slow. Yeah, it is. It's something you can own for future generations. Now, Jeff, I'm curious to know, what is the most challenging part for you personally owning such a large company?
Just the sheer volume of decisions. I mean, and issues and challenges and ideas, and like everything, I think you get better at what you do. I'm way better today than I was yesterday, and I'll hopefully be way better tomorrow than I am today. But that just the juggling of it all. I mean, we have 7 different entities that do different things, from construction to sourcing to franchising to corporate stores to training, and we have a couple hundred people that all want to have different things and grow within the organization and have different needs and different ideas, and making sure that I keep everyone happy and pushing and rowing in the same direction with the vision that no one else can see, because they're not sitting in my seat. So I have to hope that they understand. Like, it's challenging. I mean, I'm running a big enterprise, and I have a great team of executives, and I have a great team of mentors, and I have a great advisory board. But at the end of the day, the decisions I make have serious repercussions, both good and bad. And I try to juggle it all, and I think that that's the biggest challenge, but that's also the most fun. I mean, that's what excites the shit out of me every day and gives me the passion to wake up, and that's what I'm doing.
Can you remember any moment that stands out to you where you had to make a decision and you kind of were like losing sleep over it, and it just like really bothered you or overwhelmed you?
I mean, lots of times. I mean, obviously, any big decision has that effect. Closing down the stores had that effect. I definitely had to lay off 400 people and close down 28 stores. And at that time in March, we didn't know what was happening. I didn't know if they were ever going to reopen again. I potentially lost my entire business overnight. But that's part of it. And, I just try to remind myself, I know it's kind of cheesy, but I think to any movie that I ever watched, and the hero always has some major adversity along the journey. That's what makes it a compelling movie. And I just remind myself that this is just a piece of adversity that we're going to overcome. And when we overcome it, it'll tell our story in a better way. And that's all.
Boom. Now, for the future of storefronts, right? I mean, there's a lot of speculation in the real estate space, especially like, people that buy commercial real estate, and this whole economically speaking, like post-COVID. Number one, where do you see the future of like storefront retail? Number two, would you recommend this business to somebody like this year, or should there be a waiting period to kind of see what happens?
Well, I'm biased on part 2 of your question, but I'll start with part 1. I mean, I think this expedited the changing of the guard, so to speak. I mean, you've seen the trend for the last 5 years of non-food, non-service-based stores, retail stores selling anything from trinkets to clothing to toys to books to that anything that's not experiential, food or a service like haircut and nail. They were getting wiped out by Amazon and Etsy and all those companies online anyway. I think that this just propelled that faster. And so I'm concerned for them. And if I was interested in a brick and mortar store that wasn't providing food or a service that you needed to physically come, or an experience that can't be duplicated at home, I would be very cautious. As for my business, well, I think that there's so much commercial real estate. So I think that you have commercial landlords that are going to be inundated with closures, from companies like Everbowl to all the ones I just mentioned, that are going to not survive the COVID crisis and are not going to come back and reopen their doors. And we're hearing about it all the time, because they were barely holding on pre-COVID, and, you know, the numbers are going to be different for a little while. So I think there's an immense opportunity. Again, opportunity shows itself in times of crisis. So there's going to be a lot of pick of the litter second generation locations that might have been a former smoothie store or ice cream store or sandwich store that you could find, and for way less than it would have cost you before, build out a restaurant, whether you franchise Everbowl or you do your own concept, and like I did, and not have to invest in certain things that are already there. And I think you're going to get better real estate. And I also think you're going to get better rates and be in a better negotiating position, because commercial real estate landlords are going to have to negotiate differently. And if it was me and I was negotiating, I'd be looking at percentage rent opportunities and opt-out opportunity clauses and different things that just weren't available before. The leverage has swung back to the tenant. It was so heavy in the landlord pre-COVID. So in the near term, no, I think that the opportunities now, I mean, I'm not slowing down. We're signing franchises and we're opening stores. We're going to be announcing a couple press releases coming out in the next 2 weeks, as I mentioned, for some new locations, because when it's finally like everyone's like, okay, now's a good time to do it, I promise you all the best stuff's going to be taken by the early worm, the people who got there early and got the early worms. So the
future is
I'd be
bright.
looking to do it now.
The future is bright, so. Right? It's not doomsday.
People got to eat, and people got to get their hair cut, and people got to get their nails done, and people got to do those things. And you know, Amazon can steal a lot of business, but you still want to go out to eat, right? So restaurants are still going to have a place. And I don't know of a way to get my hair cut yet digitally, or my wife to get her hair and nails done digitally. So those things are still going to survive. Exactly. And then experiential, you know, I mean, I don't know if you guys have them there, but like traditional movie theaters, I don't know if they're going to make it, but we have like these high-end luxury cinemas where you can eat in your seat with the recliner deal, and it's like a whole date night. Well, that's an experience, and I still want to get out of the house. I don't want to live my whole life digitally, so I'm still looking for Topgolf. I'm still looking for experiential places that are going to be need brick and mortar and physical locations. And I just think people got to think differently. If you're a clothing store, think about how you can turn it into an experience. Make it to where it's something that Amazon can't do. If you just try to be, come here and buy a shirt or a dress or pants, I can do that on Amazon. I don't need to do that anymore. And the last of the holdouts, you know, the generations that weren't using internet to buy things were forced to over the last 3 months. And so they now understand how to use it and how to do it, and the ease and enjoyment of doing it from your couch. And so I think that we're going to see a massive chasm shift. But again, I think there's immense opportunity for those of you out there who have ideas. Just post-COVID your idea and let's go.
I love it, bro. What's next for you, Jeff? Because I feel like by the next time we chat, you're going to be at 100 stores, man. What kind of goals do you have for yourself, man? Like personal achievements that you want to hit 2020, 2021?
2020 is to really launch franchising in a big way and continue the QVC. We're going to be on QVC again on July 29th. And then hopefully we'll get another contract for August. And, you know, some personal goals for me are to, you know, continue to thrive as a business and position Everbowl to be nationwide. I'd love to hit both coasts. If we can do that by the end of 2021, that would be a great goal. And then, you know, keep seeing what's next. I want to continue to get the coffee out to as many people as possible, because our coffee is healthier than everyone else's. So you might as well drink it and be your best self and promote on Evolve.
I can't wait to try it, bro.
Well, send me your address. I'll send you some.
I'm going to. Jeff, before I let you go, man, there's somebody listening right now that needs that one thing, right? If they haven't got it already, they need that one thing, that one catalyst to boost them into doing what they want to do, man. What's your message to the people?
You got to be relentless, and you got to start now. You know, I'm going to steal something I learned from one of my mentors, but it's the power of 4 minutes. And, you know, a lot of people hit snooze every day, and it's 8 minutes. The average snooze on a phone is 8 minutes. Well, I'm going to explain to you how much time you're wasting. 4 minutes, if done every single day, 4 minutes times 365 days equals 1 calendar day a year, 24 hours. So if you do something for 4 minutes a day for a year, you just spent 24 hours of your life doing it. If you spend 8 minutes snoozing every day, you just wasted 2 days a year doing it. I don't care if you grab a yo-yo and play with a yo-yo for 24 or 48 hours, you're going to get pretty good at it. So if you don't think you have the time, find 4 minutes and start investing it into bettering yourself or learning something new or working on some goal of yours. And over the course of the next year, you will achieve 24 hours of practice or 48 hours of practice if you do it for 8 minutes. That's going to get you there. Time's going to happen whether you do it or not. So get off your ass and get going.
I love it, brother. What's the best for people to hit you up, Jeff, and give you some props for being on the show and hit you up about the coffee and the franchises? Like, how should people reach you?
So email is either jeff@everbowl.com or connect@jefffenster.com, or you can reach me on social media @FensterJeff on Instagram or Facebook. I don't check Messenger, but Instagram or LinkedIn, and hit me up. Let's go.
Awesome, bro. Jeff, with that being said, man, thank you so much for stopping by the show. Pleasure to chat with you, and enjoy the rest of your day, man. Best of luck to you, bro.
Thank you so much, man. It was truly an honor.